Am I the a-hole for kicking my boyfriend out of my place after he demanded I apologize before speaking to him? So, I, 27F, have been dating my boyfriend, 29M, for about a year. Things have been mostly good, but lately I've been noticing some red flags with how he handles disagreements. He's the type who wants to win arguments rather than actually talk things through, and he has this habit of shutting down until I make it right, even when I don't think I did anything wrong. For context, I work full-time and also just started taking online classes, so I've been stressed and tired. My boyfriend, let's call him Evan, has a more flexible job and works from home. He's been staying over at my apartment a lot, basically living here without paying rent. I don't mind since he buys groceries sometimes, but it's still technically my place. The situation started a few nights ago. We were supposed to go out to dinner with some friends, but I had a long day at work and told him I was exhausted. I asked if we could stay in instead and maybe reschedule. He got noticeably irritated but said fine. We ordered takeout and I thought that was that. Apparently, it wasn't. The next morning, he was cold and short with me. When I tried asking what was wrong, he said, "I don't feel like talking to you until you apologize." I was confused, so I asked, "Apologize for what?" And he goes, "For bailing last night and embarrassing me. You made me look bad." Mind you, I literally just said I was too tired. I didn't make a scene, didn't cancel at the last minute, and our friends totally understood when I texted them. But he insisted that by not showing up, I made him look like he couldn't control his girlfriend's moods. That phrasing really bothered me. I told him I wasn't apologizing for being tired and needing a night in, and if he needed to control me to save face with his friends, that was his issue, not mine. He doubled down and said, "Well, don't talk to me until you say you're sorry." At that point, I snapped. I told him if he was going to act like a child giving me the silent treatment in my own home, he could leave. He thought I was bluffing, but I grabbed his backpack and set it by the door. He got angry, said I was being disrespectful, and finally left after calling me controlling. Now he's been texting me nonstop saying I overreacted, that I humiliated him by kicking him out over nothing, and that I should have just said sorry to keep the peace. Some mutual friends are split, some think he's acting like a jerk, others say I escalated things too far by kicking him out instead of letting him cool off. So Reddit. Am I the a-hole for kicking my boyfriend out after he demanded I apologize before speaking to him? So after Evan stormed out, I honestly thought he'd cool down and maybe realize how ridiculous he sounded. Instead, the next day he doubled down. I woke up to a wall of texts from him basically saying that I was immature for kicking him out, that I was disrespectful for refusing to apologize when a real girlfriend would have just said sorry, that I'm not ready for a serious relationship if I can't put my partner's feelings before my own. He also threw in that his mom raised him to expect basic respect in a relationship, and I was failing at it. Which honestly made me laugh, because it sounded like something he picked up off a self-help podcast and twisted. When I didn't reply right away, he started calling. First a few times in the morning, then again during my lunch break. I ignored them because at that point I wasn't sure if responding would just fuel things. Finally, he left a voicemail saying, "If you don't call me back, I'll know you don't take us seriously, and I'll have no choice but to reconsider this relationship." Meanwhile, one of the friends we were supposed to have dinner with reached out to me privately. She asked if everything was okay between us, because Evan apparently told them I was too moody and dramatic to show up. She said she thought that was out of character for me, which it is, and that she figured something else was going on. That made me feel a little vindicated, like I wasn't crazy for thinking his whole "you embarrassed me" narrative was nonsense. On the flip side, one of his buddies texted me saying, sometimes it's easier just to apologize and move on. He really hates being dismissed. It felt so manipulative, like Evan had already gone around trying to recruit people to his side of the argument. By day 3, he showed up at my apartment unannounced. He still has a spare key, which I now realize might have been a mistake on my part. I was home, and he walked right in like nothing happened. He sat down on the couch and said, "So, are you ready to apologize so we can move forward?" I swear my jaw hit the floor. No acknowledgement of the texts or calls, no accountability. Just straight to demanding an apology. I told him point blank, "You don't get to give me the silent treatment and then act like I owe you something. If you can't talk to me like an adult, this isn't going to work." He smirked, actually smirked, and said, "That's exactly the attitude that makes people think you're difficult." At that point, I lost it. I told him he needed to pack up the stuff he's left here and take it with him because I wasn't comfortable with him treating my apartment like a second home anymore. He tried to argue, but I stood firm. Eventually, he left, but this time he was furious. Now my phone's been blowing up with him accusing me of ruining a good thing and acting like I've been brainwashed by toxic feminist TikTok. I haven't replied. But the whole situation has me questioning myself. Did I overreact? Should I have just said sorry that first night to avoid all this escalation? Or was kicking him out again the only way to set boundaries? After I told Evan to get his stuff, I thought maybe he'd finally get the hint. Instead, he decided to drag other people into it. First, his mom called me. Not texted. Called. She opened with, "Honey, I don't know what's going on, but Evan is very upset. He says you've been treating him badly, and he doesn't deserve that." I swear, I felt like I was being summoned to the principal's office. She went on about how Evan has always had high standards, and that relationships are about compromise, which in her mind meant I should have just apologized. I kept it polite, but told her that her son was welcome to explain both sides of the story before she took his. She didn't like that answer and hung up shortly after. Then my own sister texted me saying Evan had reached out to her for advice because I wasn't answering him. She said he made it sound like I was just being petty about a small disagreement. I explained the real situation, and she was pretty horrified. She told me I wasn't crazy and that the way he was trying to rally people to pressure me was manipulative. Meanwhile, my friend group was split. Some were fully on my side, saying, "Girl, if he thinks you should apologize for being tired, he's not boyfriend material." Others were more cautious, suggesting maybe I should pick my battles if I really care about the relationship. But that framing bugged me. Like, since when is it a battle for me to decide when I'm too exhausted to go out? The final straw was when one of Evan's friends DM'd me on Instagram with this long rant about how Evan has never been treated right by women and how I should be the bigger person if I want to keep a man like him. That was honestly laughable because what exactly am I keeping here? A guy who sulks until I bend the knee? At this point, I started realizing this wasn't just one fight, this was a pattern. Looking back over the past year, there have been so many times where he sulked, gave me the cold shoulder, or implied I was difficult if I didn't fall in line. I brushed it off because I thought, okay, he's stressed, or maybe I was being stubborn, but now I see the bigger picture. What's making me hesitate, though, is the sunk cost. A year isn't forever, but it's still a year of memories, shared experiences, and all the things we'd talked about for the future. I don't jump into relationships easily, and a part of me feels like ending it over something like this makes me the bad guy. But another part of me can't stop thinking, if this is how he handles small conflicts, what happens when we hit real ones? Like kids, finances, health issues? Is he just going to demand I apologize every time or drag in his mom and friends until I cave? So now I'm sitting here, staring at his stuff still in my closet, and wondering if I should just officially call it. After a week of radio silence on my end and nonstop attempts from Evan to resolve things, by resolve, I mean get me to apologize, I finally hit my breaking point. He showed up at my apartment again, this time with flowers and this rehearsed speech about how he just wanted peace and how strong men need respect. I listened for about 2 minutes before I realized he still hadn't once acknowledged that maybe he was out of line. It was all about how I escalated and embarrassed him by kicking him out. I asked him point blank, "Do you think I'm allowed to say no to you without having to apologize afterward?" He froze, then said, "Not when it makes me look bad." That was it for me. I told him the relationship was over. I asked him to take the rest of his things, returned his spare key, and told him I didn't want to hear from him again. He argued, of course, called me ungrateful, dramatic, and accused me of ruining what could have been a perfect partnership if I had just learned to be softer. That line gave me chills. It felt less like a boyfriend and more like someone who wanted to train me. After he finally left, I sat in my apartment and cried, partly out of relief, partly out of anger at myself for letting it get this far. It wasn't easy because, like I said, we had a year of good moments and ending things feels like throwing all of that away. But at the same time, I realized those good moments were always on his terms. When I complied, things were smooth. When I pushed back, suddenly I was disrespectful. My sister came over later that night with snacks and wine. She reminded me that I wasn't crazy, that it was controlling behavior, and that setting a boundary doesn't make me the bad guy. Hearing her say, "You deserve a partner, not a warden," really sealed it for me. As of now, Evan is blocked on everything. I know he's probably telling his version of events to anyone who'll listen, but I don't even care anymore. I'd rather be called difficult than stay in a relationship where I have to beg for basic respect. So, Reddit, maybe I already know the answer, but am I the a-hole for kicking my boyfriend out and ultimately ending things after he demanded I apologize before he would even speak to me? If this story kept you hooked, give it a like, share your thoughts below, and subscribe for more.